Welcome to College Football Roundtable, your source for college football coverage, including major storylines,
playoffs,
can't miss game previews, and picks each week. Join your hosts, Dan, Rob, and Jordan at the roundtable for a show unlike anything else. As for Football presents the College Football Roundtable.
$279. Nate Diaz, it's his last fight. Did they set him up? Is it a hit job? Did Nate ask for the fight? Is Nate just taking this to win so he can go and box Jake Paul? We don't know. That's basically
Jake Paul. Hold on a second. Hey, look, we got Trigger Joe on. If you guys don't realize, this is not the Veteran Trash Talk Hour. This is not the UFC preview. This is Ring Knocker Radio. Or
somewhere a producer's getting fired. I got my wires crossed. All right, boys, I can talk some college football.
Okay, you can talk college football. Clearly, you have a Michigan jersey on. I don't know if that's actually a college football team, but we'll leave that one out for the judges. Yeah, but hey, welcome back. What's up, Trash Talkers? This is College Football Roundtable, or if you prefer, Ring Knocker Radio. I'm your host, Rob. We've got Dano Ikebesa. He is in the city right now, so if you hear a bus, it's probably Dan dodging traffic, similar to O.J. Simpson way back in the day. But the third person on your screen right now is Trigger Joe from the Veteran Trash Talk Hour. And so it's awesome to have him here. We're doing a co-promotion, as always, as we did last season. And we're bringing you the college football updates as we see them. We're going to talk Service Academy football, of course. We may dive into the FCS stuff when we talk about the Merchant Marine Academy, but we'll get later on in the season because FCS is kind of boring unless they're playing a big time program and they're upsetting them. But let's talk about last week's football. Northwestern rolled into Ireland and UConn almost pulled it out. Like, what is going on with that? How's it going today? We will start with Joe to see how you guys are doing, and then we'll roll into Dan once he gets set up.
Man, first of all, the Northwestern game, that was one of those softballs if you like to bet, because giving Northwestern 11.5, 12 points, 12.5, whatever it was at kickoff, I didn't care. I was taking Northwestern in the points. I just don't trust Nebraska to beat a better coach team, and I'm sorry, I think Pat Fitzgerald's proven that he's a much more consistent and better coach in my mind than Scott Frost, because football 101 says you do not do an onside kick up 11 in the third quarter. You boot that thing through the back of the end zone and let your defense go to work. But I have no clue what he was thinking. It's inexcusable. That was if I was giving out my Blue Falcon of the week on week 0, it would go to Scott Frost, whoever made the call to do that onside kick. Because as a defensive guy, you got to be thinking like, wow, that's how much confidence you got in me up 11. You don't trust your defense to give up 80 yards. So the defense comes out flat, gives up a touchdown, they lose the game. So if I was handing out Blue Falcon awards in week 0, Scott Frost would get it.
All right,
but
yeah,
that's my take.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. So and we talked about this offline, but like we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. But let's talk about the Northwestern game, okay? Like, look, it's high profile. You're on television. You're international. If you're Scott Frost, the last thing that you want to do is lose this game by 7 points. Why? Because that's the party line. That's going to be the headline for Nebraska until they upset a Power 5 team. And it will be an upset because, Pat Fitzgerald made the adjustments after last year, which you lost by 14. I think it was 17 points the year prior. And straight up, being completely honest, you look at Scott Frost's record as the Nebraska coach. I read 2 different places, but he is plus, 10 losses by less than 7 points. So he's got 5 wins, and I think it's up to 21 games now that he's lost by 7 points. So as a coach, that means something is going wrong. Your team can't finish. But speaking of finishing, we'll continue to talk about this a little bit later, but let's toss this over to Dan. How are you doing today?
Yo, man, I am here. We're doing our best. I am still a little depressed about the UConn game. I realize that I'm probably the only Connecticut fan that's listening to this right now. But as you know, I am from the same hometown as UConn quarterback Tyler Pumachan. I was very much looking forward to seeing Pumachan play. And then they didn't start him, which, okay, you're going to start your flashy transfer 4-star quarterback. But then that guy goes down with an injury, and you put in a true freshman who they trusted to do nothing except hand the ball off and or throw screen passes. And his first pass from scrimmage was an interception, and they wind up losing that game. Very frustrating to me. I think the Huskies defense looked really, really good. I think this Huskies team is definitely going to surprise some people down the road. But it was a frustrating game watching a kid who was playing high school football 8 months ago out there on the road at Utah State, just not quite have enough.
Yeah, and Utah State was a pretty impressive team last season. Like Utah State was a great game. That usually is because it's a rivalry, but there was higher stakes last season. And again, I was happy that UConn covered because I took the points on that one. But at first, like that first half, I was impressed. Like I really thought that they were going to keep it together and at least keep the game a little bit closer. But we'll see what happens. My only other question is, I don't know if you guys saw the photos of the trophy that Northwestern got after winning that football game in Ireland. Pretty bonkers. I mean, it's like Lombardi level crystal trophy kind of thing that they got. Yeah.
I saw that thing.
Who made the trophy? Like, was it presented by somebody over there?
Yeah, I forget who it was. I think it was.
So it was probably pretty extravagant.
Yeah, I think it was Angle Air or whatever the host company that was putting it up. And then the only other question that I have about the Northwestern game was like, all right, did the team get free beer after winning the game with the Wi-Fi being down? Because like straight up, I heard that they were like, hey, write an IOU and hand it to your drink server in the stadium. And I don't know how well that went. I'm sure they lost a little bit of money on that, but can't be all bad. All right, rolling into the service academies. All right, so here's the thing. Service academies this week, you got all 3 academies in action. So Army, of course, I think they have the toughest test on the opening weekend. They're playing Coastal Carolina. And again, weird colored turf always equals bad news for the away team. Going back to the Boise State games and then looking at Coastal Carolina, pretty tough team. The scary part of it is like I'm not really happy that it's on ESPN Plus because I think that would be a marquee matchup for Army if it was on another channel. We broke it down in more detail on the Army football show. And then the other 2 schools. So the boat school is playing FCS Delaware. Really, the Blue Hens went 5-6 last year, but they look at this as a rivalry game. It's not necessarily a tune-up game for Navy just because how bad they played the last season. And this game will be broadcast on CBS Sports. Air Force is playing Northern Iowa for a game that won't even be on TV. So watch your sports play-by-play on your laptop or phone. And then Commander-in-Chief trophy status. We'll talk about this all the time. Army would regain the trophy or retain the trophy if college football ended today. But I think we'll have a good indication of how the seasons are going based off of how these teams roll out of the gate. I mean, Coastal is tough for Army. I don't think anybody will second guess the level of competition there. If Navy loses to FCS Delaware, this is going to be, again, I think they'll be warming up that assistant coaching job or analytics job at BYU for Ken Niamontoloto because they are not looking so hot. And then Air Force is trying to be consistent as they did last year. So we'll see what's happening with that one. Moving on to the games of the week. Although everybody is not playing, this season, there are some notable games. Hey, Power 5 highlights. You got West Virginia and Pitt, so you got the backyard rivalry is going again. That was something that kind of changed when everybody switched conferences and everything else. That kind of sucks because that's usually a good game. Illinois and Indiana at 8 on Friday night. You got TCU and Colorado playing at 10 on Friday night. Rutgers and BC at noon on Saturday. North Carolina State and App State is going to be on noon Saturday. You got Oregon and Georgia at 3:30. You got Cincy and Arkansas at 3:30. Utah and Florida at 7. Notre Dame and Ohio State at 7:30. Louisiana at Syracuse. Florida State and LSU play on Sunday at 7:30. And then Monday Night Football, which, look, you have to be a winning team to be on Monday Night Football, and that's Clemson and Georgia Tech, and I don't even think anybody's going to watch that game. But, Dan, what is your game of the week?
Yeah, I am probably most interested in Oregon at Georgia, more so than some of the other ranked matchups, but also in the same time slot, number 23 Cincinnati at number 19 Arkansas. Logically, that should be a pretty interesting game. And then at 7 p.m., Utah at Florida. what an interesting test that is for the AP voters in general, because Florida's not supposed to be good, but it's freaking Florida, and they're playing in the swamp versus Utah, who's supposed to be a top 10 team, but they got to go play in the swamp. So it wouldn't surprise me if that one turns out to be close, even though everybody says Florida stinks. Like, sure they stink, but they're still Florida. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's about keeping it together, particularly for Florida, because they've shown streaks of brilliance and then not so much later on in the year. Joe, what are your thoughts? What games are you going to be watching this week?
Well, I'm definitely going to be watching Notre Dame, Ohio State. I think any Big Ten guy and any Midwestern football fan is going to be tuned into that one. That's a tricky line they put out there. I'm looking at 17.5, and I could see Ohio State turning it into a track meet and running away. But it's also not far-fetched, those night games, to see Notre Dame pull out something magical and keep it close. I don't think they win the game. I think Ohio State gets out of there. But man, I think Ohio State covers the 17.5, but it's close for a while.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see if they can close, because that's been one of the problems that Ohio State has had is finishing, and you don't really see that because they put so many points up on the board in all their other games. The games that they've struggled in are the games that they haven't played well in the second half. So I think that's going to be a telltale sign of what's going on. And then
I'm sorry.
I know you got thoughts because it's Ohio State. So feel free to elaborate.
No, I don't think I think this is honestly a game Ohio State could lose in South Bend if it was reversed. Possibly. But they would have to lay an egg. So I'm going to go with the guys that got that have the athletes. And I know Notre Dame's got them, but very few have them like Ohio State does. And I just think that they're position by position better playing at night at home. And they win with a very good game for 3 quarters. And I think that they pull away at the end and leave no doubt in it. Kind of like the Wolverines did to them last year. It was a good, maybe something like that. But I digress. I also think it's too early to give to say Michigan's given 30.5 to Colorado State. I could see that being a 41-13, 41-17 game. And I also don't like. I think Michigan goes well under the 60.5 points. Honestly, I could see that game going 42-14.
Yeah, well,
I like it at 27. I don't like it at 30.5.
Yeah, being an old-time Colorado fan from high school, watching the Rocky Mountain Showdown every year is always interesting because you can usually throw records out the window. And then, CSU playing Michigan is kind of like anybody else from outside of the conference coming into the Big Ten trying to play. It's a dice roll on whether or not that team rises to the occasion and wins. If they do,
3-9, who are they even? They got a transfer quarterback.
Yeah,
I think Colorado State struggles mightily on Saturday because Michigan's defense, they may have lost 3 first rounders, but they're going to be too much.
Yeah, and then for me, the games that I'm going to be watching actually, and I'll try and keep an eye on it just because I am in North Carolina, but I want to see if North Carolina can keep up the momentum because Drake Maye went 29 for 37 with 294 yards and 5 touchdowns. And that's a pretty impressive, like when you look at the stat line, that's pretty impressive, but it was also against Florida A&M. So, we'll see how well he plays against the, a little
also
bit
what
better
he was
team.
Supposed to do.
Yeah. I think if he would have thrown a pick or had a fumble or something like that, I think people would have been disappointed, but there's some chatter already talking about him being in the Heisman race, which is going to be tough already this year because you've got returning dudes, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, who are both, pretty impressive quarterbacks, particularly at the collegiate level. So it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out for North Carolina. And again, that's just going to be the chatter in the back of my brain because I live in the state and people are always talking about it and it's always on the local news here. And of course, I'll be watching the Ohio State game and Notre Dame game on my phone while I'm at the Army Coastal Carolina game because, again, we're going down to the Dirty Myrtle to check out the Chanticleers against Army. Hopefully that is a good game.
You're right about that game being a good one. That game should be on TV, man, because, Army, show them some love, man. They Coastal was a solid team. They weren't always, but they've developed into a pretty solid football team or school. I mean, they've been consistently better than they were over the last 5 years. And, it's Army, man. They don't get a whole lot of night games like that. I think should be on TV.
Yeah, it's the disrespect. But legitimately, I think it's just because of branding. I don't know, Dan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's a CBS Sports contract playing on an ESPN channel. And the way things are going right now, it's just getting nastier and nastier. Not so much between CBS and ESPN, but Fox and ESPN are almost about to divide the college football world in half. And these guys are just not doing each other favors. And I think that's what it is, because I agree. It's a mid-major marquee matchup. It's not Florida at the Swamp. Like I understand it's not Georgia or Alabama, but I think a lot of people would care about that game and would watch it if it wasn't on pay TV.
I've got an idea what Army can do is they throw back on the all black 80 Deuce jerseys, and magical things are going to happen while wearing that uniform, as they did against Navy. So I think they need to bring that uniform back and wear it for the whole season.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. I know that they have some unique contractual agreement with Nike that limits
one of those jerseys, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The 82nd one, like that thing's
all blacked out one. I cannot find one.
Yeah, you can't find that one. You can't find the one ID one. Of course, you can find the first Cav, and I think there's some remnants of the special ops jerseys kind of laying around. So let's talk picks.
Weekly locks.
Well, I got smoked last week. I think I went 0-3. I definitely went at least 1-2, but I'm pretty sure I lost all three of my picks. I apparently more happened in the transfer portal over the offseason than I had was really tracking, and some of my picks just went in the tank. But it's a new week, and hope springs eternal. So I took App State plus 2.5 versus North Carolina, and it's amazing that this game is at App State. Home team getting 2.5 points, but really this pick is because when I was looking at it, the books had the line all over the place, which usually, there's some arbitrage opportunities. I took the best line I could possibly find, and that's really the purpose of this pick. By the time people hear this, I'm pretty sure that App State plus 2.5 will be off the board. I also took Houston -4 at UTSA. I understand that the Roadrunners are good, but I think people maybe got carried away. I watched them a lot over the course of the last 2 seasons, and as much as I like them, I don't know if I like that defense that much, and I think that they're getting a little bit too much credit for Conference USA competition. And finally, Utah at Florida +3. Again, I'll take the Gators at home getting points. Like, I don't know, man. Utah could pull it out, but I think that game is going to be close. I think that game is going to be entertaining, and I think the SEC is still the SEC. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. I mean, unfortunately, we haven't seen much of a change with, most roads running through the SEC. Occasionally you get a Big 12 team that kind of pulls it together, but or a Big 10 team that pulls it together. But last year's playoff, way too much power coming out of the SEC, which sucks for everybody else in college football until they expand the playoff. And everybody knows our druthers about that. And we've had a pretty long conversation with quite a few folks about the whole offseason or postseason makeup. All right, so my picks right now, I have Oregon at 16.5 at Georgia. I'm going to take the points on Oregon. The reason why I say that is because Oregon is always strong in the season at the beginning of the year. They upset Ohio State last year, the opener, and Oregon usually comes in prepared. Georgia has a lot of gaps based off of the draft, based off of people leaving from last season. So I think if Oregon was going to sneak in on points, I would give them the nod in this game. I'm not going to call the outright win. I think it'll be close, but I definitely think it'll be closer than 16.5. I'm sure that line will move as we get closer to Saturday, but straight up, I think the Ducks will, at the minimum, cover. They're going to play Georgia tough just because they always play, tough the first 10 weeks of the season. And then somewhere between, the Oregon State game and week 13, they lay an egg for real and just totally screw up their chances for the postseason. So I'm going to stick with that one. And the second game, I'm going to say Cincy and Arkansas. And I know that we talked about this one earlier, but again, the SEC being the SEC, would be awesome to watch Cincy go down there and smack around Arkansas. But again, Arkansas was great the first half of the season. So they went, 8 or 9-0 last year. So they were pretty stout. And coming out of the first game, Cincinnati, I would say they're probably emotionally nicked up based off of what happened to them in the playoff against an SEC team. So, you could have two kind of mindsets going in that game. Either we're going to get revenge on the SEC and they make mistakes because they're being too aggressive, or they're going to have that sitting in the back of their mind because the SEC's been living in their head rent free for the winter time. So I think either way, that mental aspect of the game is going to come into play. So I'm going to give Arkansas the points, but I'm not willing to take them outright, but I think they're going to, I'm just going to call it. Arkansas will win. They will beat Cincinnati this weekend. And Joe, we'll pass it over to you because I know you've got some thoughts.
Yeah, and you guys make it very clear week one as to why you do what you do and you're successfully growing what you're doing, because we all have similar picks. So I'm going to go off a couple of variations of some other ones that I was looking at so I can give a little bit of a different look. Like, okay, Central Michigan traveling out to play Oklahoma State on Thursday night. I think that's a very, very tough trip for Central Michigan. I know this school well. I went to their football camp every year. I follow Central, and they don't do well in track meets. And Oklahoma State's they're gonna move the ball. So only given 21.5. I like Oklahoma State to roll. I mean, I don't see Central Michigan keeping up with them, and I like Oklahoma State to cover 21.5. Night game, first game of the year. Oklahoma State's going to be rowdy, and they like to hang the points up. So there's one of mine. I did have the same take on the Utah-Florida game. I also had the same take on the Houston -4 going into UTSA. So those are two picks that I would roll with because I'm very confident in them as well. I like the under in the Michigan game. I really do. I don't see that game going over 60. I just don't. I know Cade McNamara is going to start that game, which means they're probably, I don't know how they're going to roll it. They say J.J. McCarthy is going to start the second week, so I don't know if they don't use him at all, which would be the smart move. If you're going to start Cade, then start Cade. When you pull him, give the backup a roll and not J.J., and then do the same thing next week. So hopefully they do that. And I think Michigan might take the foot off the gas a little bit when they get up. They've got some athletes, but they're not just going to hang a 60 on somebody every single day. They usually end up in the mid 40s somewhere. I could see this being a 41-13 game and Colorado State covering. So, excuse me. So I do like Colorado State plus 30.5, and I like the under in that game. So as the season progresses, also, that will be my field of expertise. Like, you're traveling to the Army game, I'll be going to Michigan games. We have season tickets. I follow them religiously. And but it's week one. You got to see how everybody gels. You're a big line guy. Michigan says their offensive line's elite. And if it is, these lines moving and everything else, I'll be very comfortable in my Michigan week 2 pick. And from there on out, I guarantee you that much. So that's how I feel. Week 1, Michigan, I know I definitely, they're going to win the game. I think they steamroll, but I think they let off the gas. And I also don't like Alabama giving up 41.5 to Utah State. When Nick Saban has no rivalry, he lets off the gas when he's hammering a small school. He always does it. Well, why'd they only beat Mercer 49-14? Because they stopped. They just stopped. They took the foot off their throat, but anybody else that can defend themselves, like Ohio State or somebody else, yeah, he's going to mash the gas for 4 quarters, but he actually is merciful to these smaller schools. So I would take a flyer on Utah State plus 42. I could see, so I do look at it differently. When I see these huge inflated lines, there's a reason for it. But But I like Western Michigan plus 22.5 going to play Sparty. They've pulled that upset plenty of times. Michigan State doesn't have Kenneth Walker anymore.
Yeah.
They don't have Superman, and that dude beat Michigan single-handedly. I watched it. It was one of the greatest college football performances I've ever seen. And he single-handedly carried them and beat Michigan. And we knew he was running, and we couldn't stop him. So, yeah, that dude's legit. And they lost that. They can't replace that. They won't replace that. So I don't see them handling Western Michigan. I see that being another close game, and it being like a 28-14. And Western Michigan easily covering 22 points.
All right, that's a fair assessment. And like I said, I think really, like you mentioned, it's week 1. Like really, you don't know. Honestly, you don't know how the season's going to gel out until probably about the first 3 games, maybe the first half of the season, because you can be 3-3 and still come back and still make it to a bowl game. As a 6 you don't want to.
Shit, Colorado State started off 0-3, I believe, last year, didn't they?
Yeah, and they
came back, got to 500 and over 500 for a second, or no, maybe not. They went 3-9.
Yeah, so I mean, it's possible for a team to turn it around and still end up 6-3 or 5-4, and with all the bowl games that are out there, it's easy for you to become eligible again. And I don't know if I like that, but like when the bowls are strapped and they're like, hey, we'll take a 5-win team and put them in a postseason
participation trophy, America. Unfortunately, gentlemen.
But I think there's something important to giving the athletes another opportunity, and now with NIL and everything else, like it just gives that kid another opportunity on the field to monetize his stats.
Well, what's beautiful about that NIL, and I'm so sorry I cut you off, is that now I'm going to play in that bowl game because my sponsor just called and said, you get on that commercial during the bowl game and we will put another stipulation in here, another stipulation in here. And he's going to be compensated for going out and playing in that bowl game. So now we might see some really good ones. You know what I'm saying? Because of the NIL, like the superstars will say, hey, my sponsor's paying me to be in a commercial at the Bell Tire Bowl,
Yeah. And I think there's some merit to that. So it'll be interesting to see how this postseason pans out now that NIL has a little bit more legs. Again, I still stick with, I think we should have like a Ricky Williams type contract for these players to incentivize them to stay, but also incentivize them to perform. So when you look at Quinn Ewers, right, that guy came to Ohio State, and we talked about this before, made $1 million, jumped down to Texas, and now Arch Manning is in front of him. So like this kid basically made $1 million for not taking any snaps. I think he took like 4 or 5 at Ohio State. Now he's at Texas. He's back in his home state, $1 million richer. Hey, credit to the kid. But,
right. The people that are mad at the kid are part of the problem.
Yeah. I think again, it's going to be one of those things where how's it going to pan out? And it's the same thing with all these adjustments to, teams moving.
Control implemented eventually on it because it will get abused.
Yeah, well, and it's the same thing with like the mega conferences. Like we're going from the Power 5 to, it's going to be the triad. You're going to have SEC, the Big 12 and the Big 10. I think are going to
Big 16.
Yeah, I think that's really what's going to end up happening, and that's going to change the face of college football, particularly with all the zeros that are attached to that Fox contract that the Big 10 just signed. I mean, it's huge.
I think I can speak for Michigan fans too when I say to anybody who's a USC or UCLA fan, the needle for fear went like this when you guys joined. It's like that. That's how the needle moved. Because they're about to find out how much fun it is to play in the Big Ten for a full year. Because everybody, there's a reason why it took so long for Notre Dame to once again say, no, we're not doing it. They don't want to run that gamut. They don't want to see Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, Wisconsin in the same season. I don't blame them.
Yeah, I think teams in the Big Ten don't want to schedule those teams, and they have to. So I think there's something to that. But we're going to close the show. Dan, you have a favorite thing that you want to talk about before we end this?
Just that there's a bunch of college football. Quick shout out to our patrons. We do our games and locks of the week post every week. This week it's going to be like 6 pages because there's so many games. I'm looking forward to putting it together. So, that's kind of our guide to what we're watching and what you should watch. And if you are interested in that, we give that out to all 3 levels on Patreon. So, check that out.
Yeah, so games and locks of the week, look for that. And of course, if you are part of the Patreon, again, we got hardware on the line. The cruiserweight title is available, so that will it's going to end up at Dan's place because I'm going to hand that off to him at the Villanova game. And then everybody else will be vying for the strap at the end of the year. But let's close this thing out. I am Rob the Angry Colonel. This has been Ring Knocker Radio, and we're in and out this college football roundtable. We'll see you guys next week. And hey, enjoy the games this weekend. College football is back. As for Football would like to thank you for your continued support of the Army Football Podcast. As for Football and Army Athletics, you can find us across all platforms of social media at As for Football. Join the As for Football team for our next episode, coming soon to a podcast platform near you.